Welcome to an interview in history. Imagine a podcast that serves as a bridge across time, connecting listeners to the voices of history's most impactful figures. Each episode is a deep dive into the lives and legacies of these individuals, exploring not just their well-documented achievements, but also uncovering lesser-known facts that shaped their contributions to our world. From scientists who unlocked the mysteries of the universe to activists who fought for social change, each story is a testament to the indelible mark they left on society. This journey through history will not only educate, but also inspire listeners to appreciate the intricate tapestry of human progress. Hi, I'm Steve Buring, your host for an interview in history. This week, we're talking with Elisha Otis, who was an American industrialist and founder of the Otis Elevator Company. In 1853, he invented a safety device that prevents elevators from falling if the hoisting cables fail. This interview takes place on January 15, 1860. Good day, Mr. Otis, and thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's start with your early life. Where and when were you born? I was born on August 3, 1811, in Halifax, Vermont. It was a small rural town, and life was simpler back then. Tell us about your parents. What were they like? My parents, Stephen and Phoebe Otis, were hard-working folks. My father was a farmer and also worked as a mechanic, which is where I believe I got my knack for tinkering and building. My mother was a strong, kind woman who kept the household running smoothly despite the challenges of farm life. Did you have any siblings? Yes, I had 3 brothers, John, Charles, and Stephen Otis. We were close, and like many families at the time, we all had to pitch in with the farm work. It was a modest upbringing, but we learned the value of perseverance and hard work. We all shared a strong work ethic, instilled by our parents, and we often tackled challenges together. Although none of them pursued the same mechanical path I did, their support during my early years was invaluable. Family was everything back then, and our bond helped shape who I became. What about your schooling? Did you enjoy it? Schooling was limited. I only had a basic education, which wasn't uncommon for farm boys in those days. I always enjoyed solving problems, though, and that curiosity stayed with me throughout my life. I understand you moved away from home at an early age. Tell me about that. Yes, I moved away from home at the age of 19, eventually settling in Troy, New York, where I lived for 5 years employed as a wagon driver. Did you have any significant relationships in your life? Yes, I actually married twice. My first wife, Susan Houghton, passed away tragically young, which was a very difficult time for me. I later married Elizabeth Boyd, and we had 2 sons together, Charles and Norton. Later that year, I suffered a terrible case of pneumonia, which nearly killed me. But I earned enough money to move my wife and 3-year-old son to Vermont Hills on the Green River. I designed and built my own gristmill, but did not earn enough money from it, so I converted it to a sawmill, yet still did not attract customers. Now, having a second son, I started building wagons and carriages, which I was fairly skilled at. My wife later died, leaving me with 2 sons, one age 8 and the other in infancy. Now let's discuss your career. What led to your work with elevators? Necessity, as they say, is the mother of invention. Well, in 1845 I moved to Albany, New York, where I worked as a master mechanic in a bedstead factory. During this period, I invented a railway safety brake. By 1852, I had moved to Yonkers, New York to work at the Mays and Burns bedstead factory installing machinery. The factory needed a hoist to lift heavy equipment to the upper floor, but this posed serious safety issues. In response, I invented the safety elevator, which automatically comes to a halt if the hoisting rope breaks. The following year, I left the factory and started my own company, the Otis Elevator Company. After giving a public demonstration of my new invention at the New York Crystal Palace in 1854, demand for the safety elevator began to rise. I installed the first safety elevator for passenger service at the E.V. Houtout building in New York City in 1857. That invention became the foundation of modern elevators. Can you explain how the safety brake worked? It's quite simple. My design used a spring mechanism that would engage tooth guide rails along the elevator shaft. If the rope gave way, the spring would activate, locking the elevator in place and preventing a fall. Was your invention immediately successful? Not at first. People were skeptical, so in 1854, as I said, I staged a public demonstration at the Crystal Palace in New York City. I stood on a platform and had the rope cut. When the safety brake engaged, the platform didn't fall and the crowd erupted. That was the turning point. Did you work on other inventions besides the elevator? Indeed. Before my work with elevators, I invented a bread oven that improved baking efficiency and a machine to automate the production of bed frames. I was always trying to find ways to make work easier and safer, and with my son Charles, the oscillating steam engine in 1860. But that was not commercially successful. Now, didn't you invent the escalator? No. Jesse W. Reno had the first patented design called the incline elevator, and I built the first prototype. One of my employees coined the name escalator. How did your work influence your later life? After founding the Otis Elevator Company in 1853, I devoted much of my time to improving my designs and expanding the business. Now, didn't you start your company with your sons? Why, yes, I did. With my two sons, I founded the Union Elevator and General Machine Works Company. And again, as I said, I debuted my invention at the New York's Crystal Palace exhibition. The impresario, P.T. Barnum, was there to hype the stunt and attract a crowd. My alarming demonstration increased orders for my hoist machines. I am a compulsive tinkerer and made numerous improvements to my elevator. In your opinion, how did your work change the world? That's a thought-provoking question. I believe my work fundamentally changed how people live and build. Before my safety elevator, buildings were limited to just a few stories because nobody wanted to climb endless flights of stairs, and freight elevators were too dangerous for widespread use. My invention made vertical transportation safe, which allowed cities to grow upward instead of outward. This shift gave rise to skyscrapers, reshaped urban landscapes, and made densely populated cities more efficient. It also opened opportunities for people from all walks of life to work and live in ways that were previously unthinkable. In a sense, my work helped lay the foundation for the modern city. To see the world grow because of a simple safety brake, that's deeply rewarding. Your work has had a lasting impact. How does it feel to be remembered for revolutionizing modern cities? I'm humbled. When I look at today's skyscrapers, I'm amazed to see how a simple safety brake helped make them possible. It's a legacy I'm proud of. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Mr. Otis. It has been an honor. The honor is mine. Thank you. Elisha Otis contracted diphtheria and died on April 8, 1861, age 49. He was buried in Oakland Cemetery in Yonkers, New York. When he died, he left his sons to run the company with better business and managerial skills. Otis's safety elevators would be used in tall landmarks like the Eiffel Tower and the Chrysler and Empire State Buildings, becoming a brand name and key component in the skyscrapers that defined modern cities. And now, another forgotten history. Macy's Herald Square is famous for a lot of things, most of them holiday related. its animatronic window displays during the Christmas season, its starring role in the holiday classic Miracle on 34th Street, and its namesake Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Macy's, of course, also helped popularize the department store concept. But perhaps the best preserved piece of its history lies right underneath shoppers' feet. When the flagship store underwent massive renovations in 2015, it swapped out many of its old school features for modern accoutrements. But 20 of its much-loved wooden escalators stayed put. The escalators were built between 1920 and 1930 by the Otis Elevator Company, which pioneered the machinery. They're made of sturdy oak and ash wood that's traditionally used in hardwood flooring. The mechanical parts have, for the most part, been updated, and modern safety measures have been put in place. They might be updated and maintained regularly as per modern standards, but the nearly century-old escalators aren't going anywhere, despite how much they might creak. Join us next week when we talk with John Henry Holliday, an American dentist, gambler, and gunfighter, also known as Doc Holliday. Until then, take care.